Welcome back to Fintech Insider Focus in association with Visa. We are taking a burning question from financial services across the globe and really putting it under the microscope with explainers, expert panels, and in-depth interviews, all to bring the global community into focus. Today, I am joined again by my Fintech Insider Focus co-host, Alex McCrea, who is the head of SEMA Fintech Partnerships over at Visa. Welcome back to the show, Alex. How are you doing?
Thanks, David. I'm doing great, thank you. Great to be here again.
Okay, so this is the second part of our focus on the question, what is stopping super apps from succeeding outside of Asia? If you hadn't heard part one of this conversation, go and find it wherever you found this podcast and listen to our panel discuss with guests from PaySky and Kareem Pay. We spoke about the pros and cons of super apps, the potential challenges across Central Europe, Africa, Middle East, and various other places, and what consumers actually want from these services. Alex, I mean, how much of this is a really important thing that you and the guys at Visa are looking at?
Well, first of all, at Visa, our mission is to connect the world through the most innovative, reliable, and secure payment network. And a critical way to achieve this is actually by partnering with new ecosystem players, including fintechs and MNOs, neobanks, super apps, alternative lenders, and money movers. And over the past few years, I think we've all seen how the pandemic served as a catalyst for digital payments. Although fintechs have been consistently breaking down barriers to access and inclusion for decades, lockdown really helped millions more consumers and businesses find more digital platforms that could help them shop, sell, and send money securely and conveniently. And super apps are at the center of this trend, with 1 of 3 individuals in the world now being a super app user, demonstrating their sheer scale, reach, and popularity. And I think it's that sort of combination of strong customer engagement, the ability to control the rollout of new technology-based services, which is a great fit with Visa's own aim of expanding access and driving financial inclusion. So we're very much focused on super apps today and helping them scale, reach new audiences, and create exciting use cases and payment experiences.
Okay, great. In this second part, we're sitting down with a huge figure in the super app space to dive into the weeds of this topic and offer a different perspective. 11FS's own David Barton-Grimley was lucky enough to grab some time with Sitoyo Lopokoiyit, CEO of M-Pesa. You'll hear that after a short message from Visa. Visa's FinTech Fast Track program is streamlining the onboarding process for fintechs, enabling them to gain access to Visa's powerful capabilities and network. Visa and their enablement partners help fintechs launch and scale cards, virtual credentials, and disbursement programs. To learn more, visit partner.visa.com.
Thanks, David. For our listeners who might not be familiar with me, I'm David Barton-Grimley, Global Strategy Director, Embedded Financial Services here at 11FS, and a certified fintech nerd, which is why I'm delighted to talk to so many people from across the industry. As mentioned, it's great to be joined on Fintech Insider Focus by Sitoyo Lopokoiyit, CEO of M-Pesa. Sitoyo, how are you today?
Very well, David, and it's great to be here to have a chat about fintech. I'm also a fintech enthusiast and really excited about the future of fintech and digital ecosystems.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you here. I've been following M-Pesa for many years, as I'm sure quite a lot of our audience have. And actually, on that note, for an international audience, for everyone out there in the world, can you maybe just start by telling us who M-Pesa are, what they do, and maybe a little bit about where super app sits in your wheelhouse?
Thanks, David. Let me just start by saying we're going to a 16-year-old company. So M-Pesa started in March 2007 as a mobile money payment system, and it started as a send money home proposition. This was mainly, when we started, it was about the rural-urban migration. And so people in the urban areas were sending money home, and that's how we started as M-Pesa. For us, it's always been about purpose. So part of what we started was how do we transform the lives of Kenyans, how do we drive financial inclusion, and we started that with that send money home proposition. Over the years, we've moved from a send money home proposition to a payment solution provider to now a lifestyle and digital ecosystem provider. So when we started, my team always says we were a fintech before the word fintech was coined at that particular time. And we started in March 2007. The iOS started in September 2007, if I'm correct. I wish I had the same market cap as iOS. But that's from that simple send money proposition, we've become a very big digital ecosystem. Today, we move more than $300 billion in value on a yearly basis. We have over 57 million customers. We have over 5 million businesses, and we operate across 7 countries as M-Pesa. So M-Pesa is now the largest fintech and digital ecosystem in the African continent. And when we started, there were no apps. So we started with the simplest SIM toolkit. This is you're using the SIM card to actually send money using that means for channel. We evolved to using the USSD channel when it started. But as technology has evolved over the years, from basically hardware-based technology to now cloud architecture and significant advancements in AI and so on, we've had to adopt. And the advent of 3G, 4G, 5G has enabled and the acceleration of smartphones has made us have the ability to provide better customer experiences to our customers. So we started with the M-Pesa app, which is a channel in which customers with smartphones can actually now use the service in a more better experience. And then for us, we always look outside our ecosystem on what's there. And we went to China, and we have our good friends from Alipay that we saw, and we saw what was happening with regard to how Alipay has become a super app. And we managed to engage with them, and we bolted part of the Alipay technology onto the M-Pesa app. And this now has enabled M-Pesa to become a super app. So basically, we're an app store within M-Pesa app. So third parties can publish within M-Pesa app, as well as we have web redirect. So we're now about a year into this journey of becoming a digital ecosystem and a super app for both consumers as well as business. So we're one of the only companies that are doing a super app for businesses as well as one for consumers, David.
Wow, what an amazing journey you've been on, and the impact that M-Pesa has on people's lives throughout Africa is absolutely phenomenal. So let's start off at the beginning. How do you see the market in the region for super apps? Where's the main driver for launching a super app across Africa? Where does that come from, and how do you see it growing?
David, I think for us, it's been a natural evolution. We are able to, for customers, they're able to send money, make utility payments, the international remittance, borrow, save, do B2B transactions, so do e-commerce transactions. So we've been able to provide all these services from, under the SIM toolkit or the USSD, and now the app, the super app, just provides this from a great customer experience. The key thing that we're seeing with the super app, it's creating new economies and recreating existing economies. So especially in the African continent, we're seeing with more than 60% of the population being below 21, they are now what we call digital natives. Myself, 15 years, for somebody who's 15 years ago when M-Pesa was 15. So he's used M-Pesa as a digital M-Pesa native, unlike us who saw this coming. So we're beginning to see a new generation that's using M-Pesa in a different way. And putting super apps enables them to live their lifestyle. So we're creating a lifestyle kind of concept for this generation. So M-Pesa just becomes an embedded part of it. Netflix is coming, how do you pay Netflix in Africa? You want to buy an Amazon, how do you do that? You want to do Spotify, how does Spotify get access to the African content? There are no cards, and the card penetration is not the same. So it's the mobile money that's coming, and players such as ourselves are providing big tech companies with the ability to actually capture this African market and pay. But one of the key things or the barriers to it is on smartphone penetration. In African content, it's around 30 to 40%. And it's not and the smartphones that are here mostly sold have very low memory capacity. These are $40, $50 smartphones. So you can only keep 3, 4, 5 apps. So they will have their WhatsApp or Instagram or TikTok, and they just have M-Pesa. So the super app becomes actually even more important in the African continent because you enable a third party to publish within the M-Pesa app so that they don't have to download other services. And what we've done also, we've zero rated the data costs when you're on the M-Pesa super app. So you're able to access other third party apps within our ecosystem without consuming your data. So that's how we're seeing it, and that's how we're seeing. This is going to recreate and create new marketplaces in the African continent.
It's interesting. It's almost like an OS on top of an OS, isn't it? That takes over the phone. So you mentioned a whole bunch of different stuff there, right? Is there, across this new generation across Africa, would you say, is there an appetite, a specific appetite for a particular type of service that a super app can provide, or is it kind of everything? We want to buy everything and do all of these great things.
So one of the key successes of M-Pesa has not just been about the team and the deep focus on purpose and what we try to solve societal challenges that are within our area. But what we did was we created an open API platform. So we enabled the developers in the continent to come and create and recreate new business models leveraging on our rails. So today we have over 70,000 developers on our ecosystem. So we're enabling third parties to build products and services and new apps within our super app by them understanding their own target consumers. So it's not me building for specific consumer, but the developers looking at different opportunities that they see and then building super apps within our own ecosystem. So that's why I say we've become a digital ecosystem now. And what we do is ensure the platform is stable, scalable, secure platform, and ensure that the channels are right. And then we vet the quality of the code and those things that come onto it. So if you look at in China, Southeast Asia, some of the super apps have 300,000-400,000 mini apps within them. So we are beginning to see that traction come in, and we do see that probably we'll be having the region of between 500 to 1,000 mini apps within our own digital ecosystem.
Wow, that's huge. And I mean, look, obviously Africa is a massive, it's a continent, very, very diverse. Is there a country in particular that you can point to, or a series of countries where you see the biggest growth in super apps, and also the sort of wider market where you're seeing lots of founders, get investment and funding to develop super apps in different niches?
I think first, the area or the continent we're seeing is Southeast Asia. I think we're seeing from our good friends Anthony Tan of Grab building super apps. We see what's happening in Malaysia, Philippines, of course China with both what Alipay, Tencent are doing. That area is where we're seeing the real emergence of super apps in it. But the concept is there and it's growing everywhere. And we're seeing even in the African continent, everybody's saying I'm a super app, banks are saying they're super app. But I think there is a notion of the tech around super app, almost like how the notion about say the tech around blockchain. But it is, what are the use cases? So it goes down to, do you understand your consumer? Are you providing the relevant products and services that make a difference in their lives? And what are your anchors? So if I look at M-Pesa, for example, I have peer-to-peer as an anchor. I have payments as an anchor. I have financial services as an anchor. We do remittance. We are an anchor. We bring over $4 billion into the continent of remittance. We see some of our other digital ecosystems. So I have probably 10 to 15 anchor products. So a lot of people put a super app, but there's no anchor. What are your key? What's your unique selling proposition that drives consumers to you, and then you build around it and provide these other services? And it's the same thing. There's a lot about consumers. So we've done a lot on consumers, but the star in M-Pesa today is actually the business. Especially during COVID, we've accelerated digital services to SMEs and micro SMEs. We have over 700,000 SMEs who run on M-Pesa and over 5 million micro SMEs that run on M-Pesa. These businesses for the first time are being digitalized and actually they're able to see their inflows, their outflows, do B2B transactions, send money to the bank, pay salaries, And then we are bolting in now the super app capabilities for the businesses to be able to get inventory solutions, accounting packages. And now we're digitizing this SMEs. And now it's now empowering a small SME to actually grow. And with that information that we are now collecting, they're able to get better loans, they're able to get better facilities from the ecosystem that we have. So if it's about really understanding what are those needs, and in the African continent, there are many societal challenges that we face, but once you've cracked what the need is, then the super app becomes a valuable tool to adding and bolting all services so that you're able to potentially even zero rate your transaction on your core, but be able to generate value from the other services that are being provided to the customer that you're targeting.
Yeah, it's almost like a mentality, isn't it? The way you're describing it, that by providing all of these services, we almost unlock, potential massive economic growth. And do you really see that as one of the things that super apps can do? Is help the African continent as a whole to grow?
Yeah. So when you look at, for example, e-commerce, how do we enable that to happen? There's somebody in Uganda wanting to sell products and services in Kenya. So the intra-Africa trade, that can be enabled by super apps. But the rails of payment are what we provide. But the super app becomes a channel in which B2B services can happen, and the B2B or government to businesses can happen. We're seeing governments also embracing it. For example, in Kenya, the government has 3 or 4 mini apps embedded in our app already because they see the channels are there. So there's e-government in there. They've got the new Hustler Fund mini app in there. They're doing the Women Enterprise Fund as a mini app within the M-Pesa. So they're beginning to see this channel as an opportunity to reach their citizens and provide digital services. So there's a huge opportunity that super apps can unlock in the continent for both consumers, businesses, government, and international partners. So for example, Microsoft bought Activision. It's a mobile gaming platform. In Africa, 1 in 5 people in the next, I think, 20, 25 years will be in the African continent. So this is a great opportunity for them to look and say, how do they partner with us so that from the payments perspective, from a gaming perspective, that we are able to enable them access this huge market within the continent. So we're very lucky in terms of we're able to leapfrog very little legacy systems that are available in the continent. So the super app can be a big channel.
Yeah, it sounds like a huge benefit both to end customers and to businesses. And I guess on that same vein, centralizing services, or at least ring fencing them inside an ecosystem, do you see any potential roadblocks, both in terms of customers perceiving that everything is in one place, and also maybe even governments potentially at one point turning around saying this is risky to have an ecosystem like this?
I think first, we are all regulated. So I'm regulated under the National Payment Systems Act in all our countries. So, and for every product that we launch has to be pre-vetted by the regulator with the central banks. So we do work very closely with the regulators in it. Tech moves fast. ChatGPT is a good example of what's happening globally. So, when I started, when we started M-Pesa, maybe probably 8 years ago, cloud services were not there, were not as scalable as they were. But as technologies evolved, as super apps have come, it's also to work with the regulator very closely and also showcase them. They're interested in protecting customer and ensure that there's no systemic risk within our ecosystem. Yes, we're good at innovation, but we need to make sure that we take the regulator and make sure the regulator is comfortable with some of the products and services that we're launching. But also, we need to be careful on a lot of the acronyms, when you say AI, cloud, and so on and so forth. At times, they're nice words to use as tech enthusiasts, but cloud is still a server somewhere. So we have to be careful on that. This is not something amorphous. It's actually, there are services being provided. And you find sometimes they're saying, oh, we can't use cloud services, it's risky, and so on and so forth. But they give you a card with a Gmail account. So where's the Gmail? So some of those things. We use Microsoft Teams. All these things are on cloud, but it's about how we demystify these technologies and work with regulators The guy sitting there from the side of the regulator is just someone like me. I could be sitting on the other side. He's just looking at it from a systemic risk perspective. I'm looking at it from an innovation of solving something. So we have to find that midpoint in it. So when we talk about super app, for example, when I speak to the regulator, I don't say super app. I say, today, customer is doing 1, 2, 3, 4. What we're just doing is providing a channel to aggregate these 1, 2, 3, 4 things that they're doing. That's it. And then we're empowering a business by saying he can do payments, he needs inventory management solution. So why don't we get somebody to put this in the channel that the consumer is actually using? So if we demystify and make it very practical on how it works, then the super app concept is just another channel that the regulator can see and knows that we are protecting it and ensuring, if you're doing mini apps, and just as an example, because of how far we've advanced, we now built a product for kids between 10 and 18. So there's an M-Pesa Junior account, which now protects kids from, let's say, you can't go to a gambling site, you can't buy in a liquor store. All those things have been blacklisted to be able to provide an environment where a parent can send M-Pesa to their kids and actually it's control and they know what the kids are doing. So we have to figure out what are those challenges that it also brings in addition to the opportunities and bring the regulator together. And then we work together in unlocking the potential that's there.
You mentioned earlier taking inspiration and almost taking a lead from Southeast Asia, from companies like Grab and China with Ant Financial. And I'm just curious to understand and get your point of view where you sit now with M-Pesa. The whole world is kind of looking at this. In the UK, for example, where I'm sitting right now, there's lots of attention into it. There's lots of attention in the Middle East, in Central Europe. And I suppose two parts to this question. I mean, do you see taking M-Pesa in beyond Africa, in fact, into the Middle East and into Europe? And do you think the super app mentality has a chance of taking off in some of these other places?
So first, we're an African brand, and the focus has been a lot in the continent. So we're in 7 markets, as I mentioned. So there are over 40 plus countries in Africa. So it's a huge runway for us. To that, we understand the continent. We have presence right from beautiful Cairo to Cape Town under the Vodacom portfolio. We cover over 550 million customers in our footprint. So we've still got a long way to go in terms of the growth in the continent and the challenges we are facing. I was in COP27 with regard to climate change, and we're seeing opportunities and work with big tech to unlock opportunities on carbon credit exchanges and democratizing that for the continent. So we see a lot of opportunities that are there in the continent that for now, that's where our focus is. It doesn't mean that I don't engage with partners in the Middle East, and we speak as tech enthusiasts. David, you said we speak with everybody globally. I mean, we share ideas. They come to Kenya or they go to Tanzania. We welcome that, so we're very open in how we share this, because I think it's the best thing for humanity to from that perspective. And if the society is successful, we'll all be successful. For Europe and US, I think it is going to happen. I think it's a matter of time. We've seen that in digital banking with partners of Revolut and 26 and so on. We're seeing this in Klarna in Stockholm, Cinch, what they're doing. So there's a lot that's happening. Google Pay, Apple Pay is doing really well. So we'll see, I think, a continuous drive towards consolidation towards the super app. So it'll be nice to see. The next few years will be quite interesting. And now with the advent of the acceleration of AI, will even make it more personalized, the services that are going to be provided in the super app.
And I guess one final question just on that same thread, is there a particular thing over the course of the next, I don't know, say 5 years in the future that you would hope the super app can bring? I mean, is it AI? Is that one of the key technologies that's going to change the game, or is it something else?
I think AI is we collect so much data, how to analyze it, how to create new opportunities, solve problems, uh, um, quantum computing. There's so much. So if you look at, we're doing 81 million transactions a day. And we're barely scratching. I'm hoping we can do 200 million transactions a day and have over 300 million customers and 10 million businesses running on M-Pesa. So all that for my team to analyze that quickly and can make decisions and can see opportunities. I think that's going to be interesting. And I'm just surprised at how smart people in Silicon Valley and places like that are creating some very interesting concepts today. And I think key to this is ensuring that the whole ecosystem is secure. There's a lot around cybersecurity, ML, KYC things. So we can go ahead, but there's ethical issues that come up with it that we need to address. And those are things that for us to be successful, we need to also have keep that in mind and ensure we protect consumers who use our digital ecosystem. And it's getting tougher. The more you add more new people, the more the team has to protect that entire ecosystem. So we work with great partners such as Visa and so on to help us look at our security and ensure we are operating at the best level globally. Because for M-Pesa, it's very different from any company in Europe or US. So if you shut down WhatsApp, the US economy will continue operating. If M-Pesa goes down, in most of our markets, over 50% of the GDP is flowing through it, the economy stops. So we become a systemic risk sometimes to the economies which operate, but we know that. And we work proactively to address those issues. So we work on 5 nines, which is 99.999 uptime, which means only 6 minutes of planned and unplanned downtime in a year. So we are playing at the same level as Google, Visa and so on, MasterCard globally in terms of our stability, security in this continent. So we have had to up our game because of the risks that are there, but also how we are empowering the economies in which we operate in. And it's I always say it's a privilege being in this role. I think one of the greatest jobs in the world, but it's humbling in terms of you work every day and you see the impact in people's lives every single day. And that's the joy that I get every day.
I certainly think so, listening to you. And I guess a final thought from you. Fintech's taken a hammering, right, over the last year or so. And it continues to do so. Also in the same vein, people have been talking about super apps for ages. Do you think that this is the year that it takes off? Is 2023 the super app year?
I don't know. When I mentioned that you need anchor products and services, we've got, I said, 10, 15, I think, plus anchor products in it. We've proven successfully that for 15 years we've grown year on year. We do over $1.3 billion in revenue, and it of well over 50%. We've been profitable, but we've also ensure that we purpose has not left us. It's core and center of what we do. So I think from the fintech standpoint, we need to probably take a step back and start building again products and services that bring traction, that consumers have traction to. I mentioned earlier that M-Pesa has 10 to 15 anchor products, and we need to start building that. And over the years, 15 years, we've built a track record of innovating, putting products and services in both consumers and businesses. To a point now, we got revenues of $1.3 billion with an EBITDA over 50% in it. But I think this could be the year for the fintechs. We've been given a hard reset by the VCs, so it's about to probably take a step back and refocusing on really building products and services that actually consumers want and use and scale up again.
And on that note, that wraps up this edition of Fintech Insider Focus in association with Visa. Sitoyo, thank you so much for joining me. This has been an amazing conversation. Where can people find out more about you and M-Pesa?
So for me, you can find out I'm on Instagram, Sitoyo Lopokoiyit, Twitter, LinkedIn, so you can reach out to that, as well as M-Pesa Africa as Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn profile. So follow us. You get to see what we're doing, where we go, We'll be at Mobile World Congress. It's in Barcelona in a few weeks' time. So if you're there, say hello to us. But keen to engage and connect with the tech community.
Great. Thanks, Sitoyo. And you can find me on LinkedIn at DavidBG. Thanks for listening. If you like what you've heard, subscribe to our podcast and don't forget to leave us a review. It helps us to make it better and helps others to find the show. For more on this discussion, look out for the next episode of Fintech Insider Focus in 2 weeks' time. Thanks very much. Goodbye.